Hello, hello, my people. I hope you're well. Welcome to a conversation with myself and Rick Cooper. Rick Cooper, I fantastically met on LinkedIn. We became acquainted, and I really, really loved what he was putting out there on the social media platform. It was very much directed towards men. He's a men's coach, and his tagline on his social, I'll read it out because it's absolutely amazing, is helping men uncover the unconscious patterns and safely release the anger that holds them back from their life purpose, which is fantastic in itself. And why I became drawn to Rick and his content is because this is the kind of work that needs to be happening for the world to rise. There's plenty of support out there for women, which is great. But I personally feel like there needs to be more support out there for men to safely express themselves. And this is definitely something that Rick's doing. So we will definitely be getting into that further in the conversation. But yeah, it's funny as well because when we actually initially connected as well, I'm living in Bali and Rick's living in Brighton, but we actually are from really close to each other back in London. So it's like such a small world, and it's crazy how the internet can make the world so much smaller for us. So very, very grateful to meet you, Rick. What I'd really love for you to do before we actually get started is just share a little bit of, well, or as much as you want to, about yourself, your story. Where did it all start? Because you've got quite an interesting background. So I think it would be really good for my audience, your audience, to really understand where you've come from, and then to also transition from your story as to what led you into what you're currently doing.
First off, Mel, thanks very much for inviting me on. It's an absolute pleasure to come on. And like you say, I come across you on LinkedIn because I was just like wicked, just someone who's truly authentic, like really herself, like my vibe, like crazy hair, tattooed, just that don't give a shit what the world thinks, just in their full expression, just giving the best of yourself to the world. And I love that. So yeah, thanks for the invite on. It's brilliant to connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Story wise, wow, like where do we start? Very tumultuous upbringing, like violent home, domestic violence with my mum and dad, like saw all that, like fighting in the house, physical, my dad and my mum just like prodding my dad all the time to get reactions and stuff, and she got it, and like it has quite a big impact. But throughout all that, that was as a kid, like the instability, the insecurity, this not feeling safe at home, but getting love as well. Like I wasn't beaten, like I wasn't beaten black and blue, or anything, any of that taken out of me and my sister. Although like that, my dad's way of doing things could have been very different. It was harnessing an irritation, a frustration of not being seen, not feeling significant. And that's where it starts in guys now, is people go, oh yeah, express anger. Like I haven't got anger. That little thing that's tapping away, that irritation, that frustration in whatever it is, of like relinquishing our boundaries in a relationship, where we're just like, a lot of men will relinquish what they stand for just to have the easy life, to have the happy life. I'll just go along with what she said, don't upset the apple cart, or I want to go and achieve that, but I feel restricted. I don't feel free enough to do it. It comes in irritation or a lack of a freedom that becomes a frustration. Over time, it becomes an anger, and that anger gets projected in a certain way. And I guess that's where me as a child felt. It's like I didn't feel heard. I wanted to split up arguments. I got shut down for it. It become angry. And then my dad started to emotionally bully me for being a fat kid. And I turned to rugby, and all of a sudden I had this place to go where I had a sense of belonging, which I think we all yearn for in the world. Is we truly want to feel safe, and we really want a sense of belonging. And that sense of belonging comes with a significance where we are able to contribute to that community we belong in. And rugby for me it ticked so many boxes. I had anger inside that wasn't visible to the world, but then you put me on a playing field where I get to prove myself to people, to be heard and seen. And it just came that I got triggered by other boys trying to coax me in, but all of a sudden there was no rules. So it was like, yeah, like I'm by nature and by heart, I'm a really soft guy. Like I'm really affectionate. I'm very tactile. I love people. Like if I meet someone in person where I'm shocked, I don't give this hard handshake. I pull you in for a cuddle. Like, you know, and I've always been like that. And it's like it got beat out of me as a kid. I had an uncle that would come round and get me in a headlock. And because I was quite soft, he'd say to my mum, "Oh, he's a fucking pussy. Like he's gonna turn out gay. Sort him out. He's so soft." Like,
Mm.
and it used to feel really insignificant. And then I got put
Mhm.
on weight, and my dad like tubs, like thing, like every time it passed me. And you know, when I went to rugby, he called me embarrassment and things like that in front of my teammates because I wasn't getting around the pitch, and that was making me like angry, but also frustrated.
Mhm.
Um, but I ended up using it as a fuel. But the trouble was that these men in my life made me view men unconsciously as competition and threat. So, and that's how most of the world looks at each other. Like even with your mates as men, there's an underbelly that's unconscious that we feel like there's a place we fit in a hierarchy, that we can't truly show all of ourselves to our mates because there's competition and threat. And
Mhm.
you get that from a young age. And then you go on a rugby field in sports where all these other boys, again, we believe that sport's a brilliant vehicle, of course it is, but at the same time, there's a contradictory part to sport. When you put in a group of men on a pitch, guess what happens? They're competition and threat again. We're given this common goal, be part of something, but let's hurt each other to get there because we're taught that sport is also a vehicle for competition. And I'm a big believer now as I've got older that competition creates disconnection from your heart space and from others.
Mhm.
Um, it's not there's this distinct collaboration sorry, distinct double dual world of collaboration and competition. You collaborate for a greater good, but it means hurting each other to get there. And it's just like it adds the confused map of man. And you know, so and I'm drifting off, but like it gives you a better scope of where it comes from as a child to then where you come into your manhood. So yeah, took up rugby, loved it, gave me a way to feel significant, a way to express. I found that I was good at it because I was aggressive, but I was also willing to just commit fully. Like I'd walk off with dislocated like shoulders and a dislocated jaw, and I'd carry on playing because it was like I'll sacrifice all of me for my teammates. Like I'll lead you. There was my attitude. It was like I'll go to any God-given place with my body to show my worth to my teammates.
Mhm.
I didn't give a fuck. Like it was just like I'm willing to put myself in all this pain. One, to show you what's possible. Like I remember distinctly from such a young age thinking I'll bury myself physically to show everybody else what's possible. What to do for a greater outcome is sacrifice everything. The trouble is I sacrificed myself, I sacrificed my own identity, I sacrificed who I really was. But
Mhm.
that led me to a professional contract. So I got a professional contract in sport. That got taken away within 18 months when I broke my back and lost the use of my legs.
Mhm.
During that time, I got made homeless when my mum and dad split up. Um, and just went through this real transition period of not wanting to live with my mum and sister in a flat because their attitude to men was so poor because of the nature of my mum and dad's split. I felt rejected by my dad. So I had no safe space really to really figure out what was going on. I'd lost my childhood because at 17, 18, it's like I had to go and get a job now for like 600 quid a month. I'm in a wheelchair trying to take painkillers where I wasn't paralyzed, but the pain was so excruciating. It was either be in a wheelchair, take 10, 20 diclofenacs every day to get out of pain to be able to walk. And I've got a £600 job
Oh,
to
wow.
give 300 to my mum to make sure we can keep a flat over our head, or at least her and my sister. And I had this shitty Carmel, this old Escort, this like Sea Reg Escort. And I had so fucking little money, right? That I couldn't even put petrol in to go to the job that gave me money. So I used to get
Oh,
sunflower oil and mix it with water, shake it up, pour it in the engine to convince the engine it was petrol.
oh
So that's
God.
how like that's how fucking poor we were and how I like survived as an 18-year-old. So I had no social life. Like, imagine,
Wow.
fucking 18, 19, 20, 21 years of age. And I'm like doing this just to get to a job. And I've got £300 a month to like feed myself, heat myself, like contribute to us trying to like survive.
Yeah.
And I was just very lost. I didn't know what to do with my life. And I ended up at 20, had my back operation at 21. They put my spine back together. They manipulated my disc back into place. And I was like, wow, the only dream I've had is I've left school with like 3 GCSEs because I was so focused on becoming a professional rugby player that I didn't give a shit about education. I was like, school was just tick a box. Like none of it interested me. I had extreme attention deficit in anything at school because like anything we value, we have attention surplus to what interests us and attention deficit to what doesn't. So like my grades were like an A in PE and a double B in English, and I left everything else as a D or an E. And at the time, you're made to, I like all of us in society, and I make a nice statement. I'm made to believe I'm not intelligent because I don't get these grades. I'm made to believe I'm naughty. I'm made to believe that I'm silly and stupid because I'm putting low sets. And as I've obviously taken other people on a journey, it was never the fucking case. Is that school wasn't interesting. Subjects don't interest me, so I have attention deficit in what doesn't interest me. It'd be like asking me to go and fucking, Rick, you must go and get an A in sewing. Why? I've got no fucking interest in it. The same as like I didn't get grades in history, geography, German. Like, I have no interest, but you've labelled me a failure, and then I bring that into my life, believing that I'm a failure.
Yep.
Whereas I don't get as good as what I am at my job, without having an interest in it, which is why I'm so fucking good at it, because I'm really interested. I studied, passed all the exams I've done and got the qualification I've got because I've got attention surplus. So yeah, you go on this journey and you have the operation. I said to the surgeon, when I'm going to play rugby again, and he's like, boy, you're not going to stack shelves in Tesco's in your life. The operation was that serious. And I was like, broke down tears. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Which quickly turned into anger because now I've got another authority figure of a man telling me what I can't fucking do. So all of a sudden, I'm literally fueled on anger towards guys, the world. I've got to prove my worth, and I've got this massive like, fuck you, like I will show you. And if more than anything, I guess like I've always been a natural leader. And I was like, right, that's it. I need to go on a mission for my life. And I went to a career centre and was like, this is what I've got. And they were like, look, you can't do much in your life apart from military or emergency services. And I was like at a point where I really needed to feel wanted. I was at a real low point in my life. I wanted to feel significant. I was very shy. I put on weight because of the injury. Confidence was shot. And I was just like, fuck it. Everyone loves a firefighter. I get to be part of a team again. I was like, I'll get to be part of a team again. I can like physically like see what I can do with this body. And I was like, yeah, women, men, like I'm going to get adored. So it was like, right. I also had this like real clear clarity that with rugby, it also failed because I didn't go all in. To be a professional rugby player, so it took a lot more than what I gave. So I was like, I'm going to leave no stone unturned this time. So I went on this journey, Mel, that it was control the controllables. What habits do I need to put in place to create the outcome I want? And, like a lot of people, and I teach this now, is we're really quick to look at an outcome we want and we put a system and strategy in place. But what we don't do is sit in the very core, the heart of it is the identity. Is we put strategy systems in place to get to an outcome. And majority of the time we get the outcome, it's either completely unfulfilling or we get there and we tick the box. We go, okay, what next? But what we don't do is sit in the identity. We don't go, if that's an outcome I want, who do I need to become? What do I listen to? What's my self-talk like? Who do I put myself around? Who do I surround myself with? What environments do I go into? Well, if I want to go in them environments, what do I know what I'm looking for? What do I want to stand for? What do I want to stand against? Once we get clarity on the identity, then we can put a system and strategy in place that falls in perfect alignment with the values of that person. So then when we get the outcome, we get it by default because we love the process then. So then we're not chasing something. It becomes the 1% daily. And we get to live the person rather than defer our own happiness or defer becoming someone based on the outcome. We can become it straight away. Which was the first time I ever came into like habits before it was sexy, before it was popular, before everyone was like selling coaching programs on like, oh, look, I'll give you habits to like build a remarkable life. It was like at 23, before the fucking book came out, 20 like nearly 20 years ago, I'd already
Yeah.
made sense of this shit in my head.
Uh-huh.
So it was like, okay, the person I've got to be is someone that like wraps 5 bin bags on his body, two jumpers, 2 tracksuit bottoms, and goes out running all through July and August until he froze up or passes out or gets found in hospital. That I'd push myself so fucking hard that like the only way I'm going to get in the fire brigade was to beat all the competition by being the fittest motherfucker out there to get through the first hurdle. And that's where my mind went. Was like,
Yeah.
I can't control the exams, I can't control what no one else is doing, but I can control what I do. And the only
Mm-hmm.
way I'm going to be able to do that is by turning up as just like the fittest badass I can. So that's what I did. I literally found myself in hospital 3 times where I was found on a run. I'd shit myself. I'd passed out. I was on a hospital bed trying to be rehydrated. I was found in a park again and then in an ambulance where I'd passed out because I pushed myself so hard that
Uh-huh.
like I basically must have fell down and fell on my nose. No blood coming out my nose.
Wow.
Um, but when I turned up for the bleep test,
Uh-huh.
the minimum requirement was like 9.6. They let you through. But when you've got
Mm-hmm.
2,000 people fighting for 30 spots, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, they gave you the option to keep running. So I was like, I'm prepped for this shit. Like no one else was going to go where I was going to go in my prep. So I outran twice and I got in. So I got in the fire service. And like I said, I was just like, I'm not leaving a stone unturned. Like I'll beat everyone else on that spot. When I get there, I'll like add all this to the team. So I'll bring all this value to the team. I enjoyed like 10 years there, Mel. Like I loved it. It was a real good crack, meet some brilliant people. But there was just an undercurrent over time where I was getting irritated and frustrated because I was like, there's more to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to me than what there's nothing wrong with being a firefighter. Let's not get that wrong. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. Individually for me, I was like, there isn't a platform here for me to fulfill potential. Like
Mm-hmm.
I knew inside of me there was more. I don't like being capped. I don't like being boxed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when we work for someone or an organization, you sign up to be boxed. You sign up to their rules. You sign up to their procedures. You sign up to their policies. You sign up to everything that they want, and that's fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't moan about something that you fucking sign a contract to be part of. Like,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
I spent 10 years in an environment where people fucking moan the whole time about no pay rises, the restrictions, like management. You fucking signed up. Like, you knew what you signed up for. Don't moan about it. Like, you knew you were going to be put in a box. You knew you were going to be put in a uniform. You knew you couldn't express yourself fully. Don't moan about it. And as
Mm-hmm.
time went on, I got bored and frustrated, and like this warrior inside of me just kept coming out, playing semi-professional rugby again during that 10-year period. You know, like I got made captain of my boyhood club. I got paid to play. I broke everything else. Like my nose is metal, my jaw's fucking metal, my hands got metal plates in, my ankles got metal in. Like I tore my shoulder off another 2 times and just kept coming back.
Yeah.
Um, you know, at that time, it's like it's just this warrior in all of us, where it's just like fuck you. Like, there's a saying I heard once, it's like fuck you, pay me. Like, you know, like every challenge, every obstacle, I was like, it was very much an attitude of fuck you, I'll overcome you. You got to pay me some way. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll overcome it and I'll show the world like what's possible. You know,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just give in. I've got a metal plate. Oh, I can't do it anymore. Oh, I've broke my nose. I broke my face. Like I won't do it anymore. I was like, no bollocks. Like I'll plow through this. Just keep showing you and everyone around me anything is possible. Like anything's possible if your head's strong enough to dive in. I think the undercurrent was though, Mel, was like it ended up becoming too toxic. I was constantly looking for a point to prove. I was
Yeah.
constantly breaking my body to prove that point. And what I was
Mm-hmm.
doing was becoming very rigid in my physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it become too warrior. My
Yeah.
shadow was not integrated. That what I was
Yeah.
doing was filling a really deep void of
Mm-hmm.
fat child wanting to prove worth, like conditionally loved boy needing significance in the world. So during that time, like that confidence, I'm projecting it. So I'm like women now. I'm 25. I'm like getting a lot firefighter, you deem the fantasy. A firefighter, I'm in really good shape. Like I'm super confident on the outset. So, like for anyone, it's appealing. You become the guy that women want to fuck and men want to be like. So you end up playing the role. I put the mask on. It's like, yeah, wicked. Like I can get all my desires, all my fantasies filled right now. Like, but all it becomes a projection of insecurity and anger. So I'm sleeping with everything that offers it to me. I'm like playing every role. I can be the man amongst men. And it becomes exhausting because you play the role for 5 years. And then at 28, I have this massive breakdown because it's like, who the fuck have I become? I've become the cheat. Like I'm in a relationship and I'm cheating left, right, and center. Like I'm like playing a role with men of being this ultimate macho warrior, but at the same time, I'm like lying to my managers that other clubs are trying to come in for me. I want a bigger pay rise, but actually, I don't want a bigger pay rise. I just want them to go, yeah, Rick, you're really important. We love you. Like, I just wanted significance, and I needed someone to keep like implementing this self-worth and self-assurance. And I was so immature at 28, 29. I didn't realize that was going to come from within. I just kept needing the world to try and tell me that. I need the world to tell me it, So I'll let you talk, Mel, because there's still more to come. I feel like I'm like literally haven't breathed yet.
Yeah, you have been talking. See, I said that you've got a story, which is great, and it was really deep. And a few things that I wrote down that I wanted to ask you questions off of the back of. So first, like, how I want to go back to like childhood when you got insulted by the men in your life in respects to like your softness and being called a pussy, or he's going to be gay. Like, what kind of effect did that have on you and your inner child? Because we've all got our own inner child within us. How did that, like, I mean, you've already kind of explained how that made you see men in your life. I just want to touch on it a bit deeper because obviously there's going to be some men viewers that maybe have gone through this very experience and still haven't yet touched upon their shadows and worked with their inner child and really become aware that that's even a thing. So how did that you've kind of touched upon the outward projections with that anyway, but yeah, I just want to touch upon that in more detail with you, as well as how you personally addressed alchemizing that wound into something that would benefit you and your relationships moving forward.
Yeah. Do you know what, Mel? I remember distinctively this moment, and it was going to London. This guy had said to me about I was going to teach, so we'll touch on it. But I was teaching the personal training syllabus to guys and girls and passing them out of it. And this guy said, "You should be a coach." And I went and got hypnotherapy because I was like, I can't be a coach. I'm a big fan of like you can only take someone five steps further if you've gone 5 steps deeper on yourself.
Yeah.
And I got into hypnotherapy because counseling just didn't work. I tried it twice and I was just like, this just doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
like I've just generally found that a lot of people come to me. Yeah. Like a lot of guys I've worked with and girls in the past, I've worked with both sexes before, always go, fucking hell, Rick, like this is totally different from counseling. Counseling hasn't had this effect. And I think I went down this hypnotherapy route, Mel, and I don't know what it is. I'm quite good at my mind simplifying things to understand better. Yeah. I sat there and I was like, men go to the gym and they go, oh, it's my therapy. The gym's my therapy. And in my head, I suddenly, after hypnotherapy, I saw that mirror in me. I'm like, the physical world, oh yeah, it's my therapy. Oh, the physical world, oh, it's my outlet. Oh, this, and this. And I suddenly sat there and was like, men go week after week, month after month, year after year to the gym. Every night after work, they've got a family at home. Like not all, but most have a family at home, or they've got friends, and there's just a big life and world out there that can be explored. Yet they'll work hard all day and they'll go to the gym for 2 hours, then go The excuse is always, oh, it's my therapy because I'm angry or I'm frustrated or whatever it is. And I sat down with this guy and I went, if you had a therapist that you spent 5 years with and saw him every day, do you think it works? You go, no, I'd fucking sack him. So why the fuck do you keep going year after year, day after day, week after week, saying the gym's your therapy? Because if it was a person, you'd say it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And he sat there and was like, oh, fuck. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, so when are you going to get to the point and actually address what the fuck's going on here then?
Yeah.
And he was like, that was me. He was like, at what point am I going to sit still? And that's the one, sit still and be like, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go a bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one there, Mel. It's like men will keep doing and doing and doing, and we basically have the same shit, throwing different glitter on it all the time. And I know it's different. Same shit. No, it's different dinner jacket. It's different. Like I've changed. No, you haven't. Like you're just putting a fucking different shirt and tie on the same shit every fucking day, convincing yourself you're doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this, like I've gone from rugby. It's like, no, I'm all right. Like I'm going powerlifting now. It's just for me. Like, no, it's not. Like we just do this shit and we don't stop. So the advice I'd be is like, it's the minute you get to stop, listen to that pain that's coming up when you're like, no, I need to do something. No, you don't. That's the signal of you need to not do something and start to look for a different way. And that's not about the different way of doing something for outward. It's about sitting down with someone and going inward. And rather than pointing out of who you can become outward, it's going in and
Mm-hmm.
going, who the fuck am I really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that answer, and it leads on next to the whole anger piece that I wanted to touch upon. Because I'm very big on feeling emotion, like whatever emotions are going through my body, especially the negative ones. I'm very big on sitting with those emotions, not letting them consume me, but actually sitting with them to find out, okay, well, where has that come from? For instance, if I'm triggered, and a lot of the times when we are triggered, because like we're typically going through life on autopilot, unconscious. We're not very self-aware because we're just going through the motions, and it's not our fault because we haven't been taught these very important life skills in school. That's a whole nother story as to why I believe we're not. But we're not taught this, so it's really not our fault if we don't know how to process our emotions and we don't know how to work with it. But typically when we don't know how to do it, this is when the toxicity happens in our relationships and in our lives and within ourselves, because we're suppressing that negative emotion, we're suppressing that anger, we're suppressing that sadness. And then a certain archetype comes up of our inner child, of how we dealt with it way back when. And there's a few different archetypes, like going within yourself or acting out or people pleasing or whatever that may be, right? And I am very big on feeling emotion, because underneath the emotion, there's always another emotion and another emotion. And then very deep underneath that emotion, once we actually feel through the emotion and process it, I personally find the emotion of love is always there underneath. It's like love, and then it's sadness, frustration, anger, and then it would just get bigger when we don't address it. So, like I always sit with it, process it, work out sort of where it comes from my past. I'm very interested in understanding how you now process your anger, in the best way, like for you, essentially. Like, how did the epiphany come about, first off, when it came to, okay, right, I need to change things and deal with this anger? Like, I know there's a lot that led up to it in the outward projections. But yeah, and how do you process it yourself? Because obviously you're very different. Well, you're still human, but like you're wired different being a man. So I'd be interested in finding your kind of perspective on that.
But there's a lot of ways I'm going to go off on this one, Mel. Just to come back to like two of your points is like it, and I agree with this heavily. And I had a conversation this the weekend. It's not that men don't want to do something about it. It's
Uh-huh.
they don't know how. They
Yeah.
don't know how. They don't know what's available. They don't know that there's stuff out there that's completely not what they think it is.
Uh-huh.
Um, like like for instance, like I do a dynamic meditation with guys. Now, if I say as soon as I link meditation, guys visualize like skinny guy. Meditation is
Oh,
nothing of the
okay, Rick.
sort. Meditations get out of the head
Wait a minute.
and
You had really
got
bad
you.
feedback and lag there. So whenever you mention meditation, men visualize, and then it just went. So can you
It's pretty
start?
good because I gave a general remark on that bit. Typically, men can't resonate with the visual representation of meditation. The same with yoga. Like yoga classes, meditation classes, predominantly filled up with ladies because the image that's been portrayed for so fucking long is either female head like lead, which is fine. Like, you know, I personally, I'm very in touch with my feminine. I can love spending time with women. I love learning from women. I love having conversations. Like, I'm really in touch with that. But the trouble is that guys either associate with female leads this, or effeminate male leads it. So, like, predominantly, like, very slender looking guy, clean cut looking guy, sits with his legs crossed, or she sits with his legs crossed with thumb and fingertip on knee. And it's like men who straight away, the visual unconscious is yeah, the visual unconscious is this representation that anything in the word meditation is, with meditation or yoga, must link the visual to that. And they can't resonate because it's like they don't recognize that in themselves. And there's a lot to do with that, like, you know, programming as kids, watching He-Man, Batman, like all this stuff or visual representation of what a man is becomes, not only is it associated with these aspects that can really help a guy, but the, like you say, everything's got layers, and all these things create layers to men rejecting their movements. But there's a dynamic meditation that I run, which is blindfolded. So it's like loud, like different music, like chanty kind of music. And dynamic meditation allows a man to have no judgment with the other men in the room because the music and the chant's loud. It's in 10-minute segments. And it's like the first 10 minutes all about breathing, getting into the body, but you're blindfolded. So you have no idea what anyone else is doing. You don't know the noise you're hearing. You don't know what man it's coming from. And you're getting into the body. So you're getting out of the fucking head. You're having issues breathing. You're moving around. The next 10 minutes is about expression. So like I lead it, I facilitate. We've all got our own juice in how we do things. And that 10 minutes is about fucking release. So it's about screaming, it's about shouting, it's about running around a room in any animal that you feel is coming up, you know, like, so we have this meditation where we get in the breath, you're slowly moving around in the room through your body, and then you've got this 10 minutes to absolutely go fucking mental. Like, you go in a room and it's like the outside world will be like, what the hell's going on there? You've got guys on the floor, like punching the floor, going, fuck, fuck. Like, well, they've never had the opportunity to just shout at the top of their lungs and punch the floor without judging themselves.
Yeah.
And then you create the space for that to happen. You know, you've got like other guys in the room beating their chest like a gorilla and like making the noise. You've got other guys sitting there roaring like a fucking lion where they're literally, for once in their life, breathing deep into their fucking balls and then releasing it out, you know, without being judged, you know. And people always like, how many people do you hear, Mel, go, oh, I just want to disappear to the middle of a field and like scream, or I want to get on a punch bag and beat the shit out of it? Because these are the ways they're acceptable, but they've got these tools that no one knows about. with the dynamic meditation, you know, like with like simple things that bring calmness and stillness, like getting a cold water. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of like going in the cold water in the sea. I have an ice bath in my garden. I get in every single morning. Like, there's tools that allow you to just start to be in yourself that take like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it's going to be. So there's all these like multi layers of helping men and myself. Like when I came across all this, it was like learning to express, like ecstatic dance. Like I go to ecstatic
Oh,
dance class.
love ecstatic dance. It's
Yeah,
great.
where it's all about expression, and ultimately men's anger
Mhm.
ultimately comes from the void of expression.
Mm. I
That's
think
where,
I think anyone's anger, to be fair, comes from the void of expression.
yeah, 100%. But people generally don't know what's available, so they're
Yeah.
like, how do I do it? So they go back to type. Oh, it must be the gym, or or it must be like, I don't know, something else within the home. But then it just gets projected. So because
Mhm.
it hasn't actually been expressed, the anger starts to get harnessed. And I don't want to say that anger is harmful because it doesn't have to be. It's like when people say about toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, there's no such fucking thing. Someone made up toxic masculinity and toxic femininity to create divide. There isn't toxic masculinity, there's toxic behaviors. Like,
Yeah.
that's all it is. If
Yeah.
behavior's toxic, it's nothing to do with the fucking sex.
And
In either,
to me, it gets toxic when the negative emotions are not addressed and they're not felt. Like you said, like I completely agree. Anger is not a bad thing. Anger is actually a really good thing because it's your body's inner guidance system to tell you, hey, something's not right here. What do we need to work through? What do I need to understand? So if we sit there and process, okay, well, why am I angry? Where is that coming from? Is it just an ego anger? Or is this like a red flag that's happening in my relationship that's not good that we need to sort of work through, talk about, and process? Whereas if we suppress it, that's when it manifests in an uncomfortable way, whether that be within our relationships, within our emotions, within our mentality, or within our physicality. Like it can literally make us sick. So expressing it is fantastic, and listening to the fact that you've created this dynamic meditation for men and screaming and moving like is fantastic, and with no judgment as well, because that's what we all typically worry about, is having judgment on our expression. And this is why safe spaces like you've created and also like I've created within my online community need to be shared more, and also need to be created more as well, in my
yeah,
opinion, after we do the work. Because it's like, you know, we, in my opinion, disagree with me if you like. I'd like to hear your perception on this. But we live in a very sick world. Our
mm,
society within Western society is very, very sick. And I'm not just talking about it in the sense of like physical illness. That is a big part of it, because physical illness is your body telling you that something's wrong within your mind and within like your emotions being stored and being built up. But it's like the fact that it's a normal thing for us to go and have a drink at the weekend, and if you don't drink then you're a weirdo because you don't want to poison your body. Like, you're the weirdo if you don't want to drink and if you don't want to poison your body. And to me that just screams absolute sickness. And there's a lot of toxic relationships as well, and it's not like people go and look for toxic relationships, like that's the last thing people want. But it's because of their unresolved traumas, their unresolved anger, their unresolved sadness, that they project it out onto the ones they love. And they don't mean to. And most of the
yeah,
time they're like, oh my God, why did I do that? That wasn't even me. Like, that's not even me. No, it's not you. It's your unresolved trauma that's coming out. It's your ego protecting yourself. But because you haven't been taught how to deal with it, that's why that's why you're reacting in that way, because you don't know how to respond effectively and you don't know how to go within. So yeah, I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that.
I agree. Like, God, We'll have to do a part two. Um, I do.
We could go deeper into that in
I
part two.
massive, like I massively agree with this. In that there's so many things I want to talk about, but I know we're not gonna have the time. But fuck, I generally feel the same thing. Like I said the weekend, the Western world's fucked. Like I was speaking to someone, he went to Fiji and he was saying he went to Fiji and he went to give the guy money for to carry a suitcase. The guy and his friends literally laughed and he said, "Are you joking?" He went, "I don't need money. I don't need your money." He's like, "My life and where I live is paradise." He goes, "You Westerners, you Western world." He said, "You guys have got it fucked." He's like, "You think that we need money. You think that it's all about money and status." He goes, "We have it made here. There's a thing called wapapa now in the Maori world,
Okay.
and you're probably familiar with it. And it's all about connection to your land. It's about connection to your
Yeah.
people. It's about
Yeah.
connection to your us story, your connection to your belonging,
Yep.
connection to the people that matter, and creating a life, your life force around that. And it's
Mhm.
very much part of that it's not part of the Western world. We're all about status, we're all about money, we're all about, like you say, like I did dynamic meditation the other week at like 7:30 in the morning on Brighton seafront, and there was guys that really sold themselves in, and we had about 30 onlookers at like 7:30 in the morning, and a lot of people are like, what the fuck are they doing? And I'm like, this is where we're fucked. You
Yeah.
watch a group of men going crazy on a lawn, not harming anyone to get rid of all their emotions, and it's unacceptable. But then you put them
Yeah.
in society to fight, to drink, to stab, to shoot, to rape, to murder, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, there's another one. It's okay. I'll turn the page. I'll turn the page. And we get conditioned to feel like it's just the news. It's just what happens during the day. But we'll turn our nose up to a group
Uh-huh.
of guys who are actually trying to fucking do something about it on the lawn, shouting and screaming. And although it looks weird, it's more unacceptable in the Western world than it is to actually like put up and accept that there's all this other shit going on. But we'll put all that shit in the newspapers and we'll make it become so normal, so normalized that we just neglect to see the other stuff in the world where it's safe to express and how it's safe to get rid of this emotion because it causes sickness. And I know this is another topic, but without that being a tabloids, without people being sick,
Yeah.
being because of expressing anger, you can't fund the pharmaceutical part of the world. Like it's the
Yeah.
most profitable part of the world. If you can't fund that, you take power away from the biggest powers in the world that get to manipulate human behavior by by the bullshit they feed you. Like we could go off in a completely different direction with all this, but like, whereas
Just
if you
stuff on
connect
my
people,
level.
whereas if you was to sit there and help people connect with like purpose, it's such a fashionable word that engulfs people, but it's like fucking purpose at its heart's core is connecting to your land, loving your land, so with so much love and nurture to grow your own food,
Yeah.
to, if you're going to kill an animal, like nurture the land for the animal to live so healthy, so free. And then when you kill it, it's a clean kill. It's cleanly killed. You supply that food to your family who get to eat and survive off of the back of that. But within that family, you're all utilizing the same concept, which is ultimately belonging. And I mean, this is, you get to do that in certain parts of the world. And that's where
Mhm.
purpose is
Yeah.
the daily of that. And for me, understanding that was like, this is why I need to create like our men's workshop. We have a 1 day workshop called The Untamed Man, where we
Yeah.
try to use as many tools as possible. We have ice baths on the day. There's a
Amazing.
dynamic meditation on the day. There's a breath work session on the day. There's a workout during the day. So all abilities, like they get to use all these tools of how to find expression, how
Yeah.
to find calmness, how to project. Because anger isn't bad. Like it's just a gateway emotion. And if you
Yeah.
attach that to discipline and passion and purpose and boundaries, anger is a catalyst for action. And
Yeah.
which becomes untoxic. It becomes
Uh-huh.
purposeful. So we have this day called the Untamed Man, where we put all of this in, and in between each bit, there's communication circles. I teach around the warrior energy, around like how the deflated warrior shows up, how the inflated warrior shows up, how the ego self shows up. So men go, oh fuck, like I get that, I understand that, like now I get it. What the shadow when it's unintegrated, like how it shows up in projections, and then but also the tools of integration. So how we make that energy, that anger, how we make it clean, like what to do to make it clean, and what that all like ends up coming back to, and why we do it as a group setting, belonging. Like we all want to be belonging. We all want to belong, and we all want to go through experiences together. And that's why, like, I have the group program Untamed. I have the Men's Day, the Untamed Man, and the Untamed Man one day is like a snapshot. Like the group program is going on a group on a deeper journey, you know, and because it comes back to belonging. Like people don't know how, but they want to learn how. So you give them the gift. This is how, but I'll also create the space for us to belong, to go on a journey together that makes it purposeful, that makes us connected.
That's fantastic. It's absolutely beautiful, the work that you're doing, Rick. And just quickly connecting to the Wapapa that you were talking about, it's exactly why I was drawn to and why I stayed in Bali, because they're exactly the same. They really appreciate and respect the land. They're very spiritual, and they care about community. And that's what we're missing as well in the Western world, is community. We haven't got enough community. There's there's not much sense of belonging, especially from where I was from, London. Like traveling, it's like no one really smiles at each other, and if you smile at them, you're a weirdo. If you want to speak to them, it's like fuck off, I don't want to speak to you. So it's definitely really, really beautiful work that you're doing, Rick, and I'm so very grateful that we're connected. And I think we've only just touched the tip of the iceberg, so I'm really looking forward to part 2 at some point or another. But if there are any men that are watching that are near the Brighton area that do want to get involved in what Rick's doing in person, please do reach out to him. But I do highly recommend that you follow him on socials. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put links to his socials in the comments here. But if you can just tell everyone where they can find you, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, LinkedIn, just Rick Cooper, LinkedIn. No, I'm on no other social platform. My website, www.rick-cooper.com. You can find me on there. They're the only two places actually, Mel. And then with 24th of September, we've still got spaces for guys to join the Untamed Man. And then from the 1st of October, I'm running the next 12-week group pro one-to-one availability. So yeah, amazing.
Okay, perfect. So again, you cut off a little bit towards the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything in the comment in the bio, with what's coming up for you of recent. And yeah, I'll put all of your links and everything like that. But Rick, thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing. I knew that this would be amazing, and I'm really looking forward to part 2 of our conversation, for sure. So yeah, on behalf of me and all of my audience, and I'm sure your audience who are tuning in, thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day.
You too. Thanks for having me, Mel. It's been an absolute pleasure.